session first before we start the class. So anyone with any issues that they want to discuss?
Please, if you have any question, if you have any doubt about anything, any concept that you don't understand, anything that you want, maybe you want remediation, there are things I will go for that I will take all over again with you guys. But first, for the previous class, if there's anything that I don't understand, any subject I don't understand, if you want him to maybe throw more light on something, this is your chance to ask so that before we move forward, you understand what we have done for the previous class.
Yeah, anything you have practiced and like it didn't work, or maybe there was some error that was showing up that I did, it worked for me, and you are doing and it's not working for you. So anything like you know.
Yeah, I was able to download the Ubuntu Linux application, and then I tried to run I did anyway. I succeeded in downloading it, and the next step, I also tried the PWD and the LS. So I tried it, and
You try the CD command. The CD command is also
yeah,
like
the CD,
very famous
yeah,
because you have.
I tried the command, the command, but I succeeded. The first thing is I succeeded in downloading excuse me, the Ubuntu, that name, the pronunciation,
Ubuntu.
Yes,
Yeah,
Ubuntu Linux, yes.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. But by the way, the same command that I was talking about, right? If you already have Kali Linux, you don't have to go to Ubuntu. It will work there as well because they are same. Like they are built on the same platform. So anything that runs on Kali will run on Ubuntu. Anything will run on Ubuntu will run on Kali. So they're like brothers, right? They have everything in common. Okay. That's why I was going forward with Ubuntu because I didn't have Kali at that time. So it should work. But that's a good job. Yeah. If you are able to.
Yeah, I did it. I took a screenshot of it, of the PWD as I downloaded and took a screenshot of it to show as evidence. And then I also used the command, the PWD, and took a screenshot as well. And the LS took a screenshot as evidence.
Okay. That's a good progress at least. Okay, so today let's start. So today we'll be working with some cybersecurity concepts, right? So it will be kind of theoretical, but that will let us understand the mindset of a cybersecurity engineer that we will be going to become, right, after this class. So let me share my screen because I think no one has any other questions. Yeah. Okay, so I hope everyone can see the screen.
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, awesome. So today we'll be going forward with something like this is all theoretical, mostly theoretical, right? There will be some commands, but most of the time like this will be theoretical, right? But here we will be understanding the mindset of a cybersecurity engineer, and that is very important if we are moving forward with this kind of thing. Okay. So because if you understand what you're working with, what you're going to become, you will have to understand how the cybersecurity engineers think, how they behave in various situations. For example, if there's an attack, what will be their first thought, right? What, like, how will they plan their remediation? So everything, like most of those things we will be covering here. We'll be understanding their mindset, what they will be doing, what they're not, like what like the all the do's and don'ts that we should do as a cybersecurity engineer. We'll be like going towards those things. Okay. So first of all, here we are seeing like it's cybersecurity as a business function, because usually whenever you will be working for a company, right, you are working for a business at the end. If you even create your own company, right, that too is a business. So this becomes very important because nowadays everything is digitized, right? And nowadays we have AI and other stuffs as well. So things become very problematic nowadays. So if you don't understand, like even if you leave a very small you can say vulnerability or a gap, then that can be exploited very easily, right? So we have to understand and we have to get into that cybersecurity perspective to reduce the attack area. Okay. So basically, whenever we are working with cybersecurity as a business function, right, we have to look into these points that you're seeing on the screen. So the first thing is revenue and financial continuity, and that is very important for a business, right? Revenue and financial continuity means the business is making uh, something. Okay. Yeah. So as I was saying, like the business is built to create revenue, correct? And we want that revenue to be flowing continuously. We don't want the revenue to stop due to some issues, okay? Because obviously, uh, the more downtime the app will have, the more business it will lose, right? So in that case, usually for businesses, we want the revenue continuity to be flowing continuously. We don't want any hindrance or we don't want any obstructions within the financial and revenue continuity. Okay, so that is very important here. So, and that is what the other businesses like the big corporations, right? They follow that anything happens. A revenue should not go down by any vulnerability or by any gaps. Like that's your job to handle. We are paying you, and that's your job to handle. So we don't want to lose revenue. Second thing is customer trust and reputation. Because the thing is, if I can, like as a business, right, if I can assure you that your data is safe with me, whatever you are doing on my platform, whatever data you are sharing with my platform remains secure with me and it is not being shared to anyone else or it is not being leaked or it is not being hijacked by anyone, right? So that builds customer trust and reputation. And that is a very big thing for a company because think it like it as a brand, right? So for example, you have a maybe a Chinese brand, you have a big brand, right? Like you have a cheap brand or a bigger brand. So usually what happens is whenever you're buying something, right, you always look for a reputable brand. Why? Because that brand has maintained a reputation and there is a customer trust they have built upon time, right? By securing your data, giving you proper, you can say, services, right? Those kinds of things. There's multiple things. For example, Apple or Samsung, like these big companies, right? They have built the trust and confidentiality with the customers along the time, right? Because they have you can say kept the trust of the customers, right? They like whoever has believed in them, they have kept the trust. So building a customer trust and reputation is really important, and maintaining it is also a very important thing because that is what makes a company big. Okay. Second thing, the third thing is intellectual property, or called as IP in our term. Okay. So intellectual property is very important because don't want, again, as I said, we don't want the data to be going out, right? For example, there may be sensitive data. We want the data to be secured. So take an example, right? As Apple. So Apple built their product, right? And they have their own technology for building various products. They make their own chip, they make their own, you can say, phones and whatnot, right? So they don't want the data or the you can say blueprints or whatever they make. They don't want that data to be hijacked or hacked, right? They don't want the data to be shared by anyone else because that is their own intellectual property, and that is what is giving them or making them money, right? If they lose that data to a hacker or someone, then obviously they will start losing money very fast, right? Because now the other guy also knows what Apple is building, how they are building, right? Like the company secrets. We don't want to leak them. Okay, so that is very important for a company. Fourth thing is service delivery and uptime. So this one is the most important one you can say. Like this is also important. This is also important, but this is the most important in terms of a company making revenue. So this thing is tied to this thing. So think it like this. For example, I'm Amazon.com, right? Like I'm a company called Amazon, and I have a e-commerce portal called Amazon.com. Okay. The thing is, until my Amazon.com website is working, obviously the customers will come in, they log in, they buy product, right? They do various stuffs. They buy like various stuffs, right? So that is making revenue for my company, right? So if this service, first of all, the service delivery is, for example, buggy, it's lagging, right? due to like some other, they can be multiple or various factors, correct? So if my service delivery is not good, obviously that will affect my company and its reputation, right? And the uptime. Uptime means if my website is accessible to you, if it is up, obviously if it is up, you will be able to access. If it is down, no one will be able to access, right? So uptime is a really important factor when it comes to companies because they want to be up at any given time, right? So for example, even in my night, if I open Amazon.com, it should open whatever I want to buy, it should work, right? That functionality should work. So if the company website goes down, for example, Amazon.com goes down, obviously I will start losing money because now the customers are unable to buy anything, they are unable to log, they are able to like do anything that they want. They don't they cannot do it, right? Because the website is down. So I'm continuously losing money. The customer is frustrated. Obviously, my reputation will start going down. So there are multiple factors that are tied to it. So this thing, that's why I said like this is very important for a company, right? So this is also important, but what is the importance of an intellectual property if you cannot even sell it? That's the whole problem, right? So if you have a product and you want to sell it to the market and no one wants to buy it, or you cannot sell it. So what's the benefit of having an intellectual property or an intellectual like product with you, right? So that's why uptime becomes very important. You want the business to be running at any given time, right? There should be no downtimes. So that's is a very important factors when it comes to company. So this is also something is like really important for the companies. The last thing is regulatory compliance, and this is really important in terms of security. This thing is the most important thing in terms of security. So, for example, you are a company. Let's take again the Amazon.com, right? So, if I'm building a website, and now what happens is I don't just go and make the website live, and the customers will start coming and like buying things and doing things, right? It won't work like that. Usually what happens is whenever you're building something this big, right, you have to apply for a compliance or a regulatory compliance. What happens is because you'll be dealing with thousands and like several thousand of customers, right? And there are like several thousand of people. So the problem is when you are dealing with those many peoples, then their data is also yours because they will be logging to your they will be logging to your platform. They'll be storing their data. They'll be sharing their data. There will be multiple things happening, right? So where does this regulatory compliance comes in? For example, when we talk about US, Europe, right? The compliance are really strong there, and if you don't follow those compliance, obviously they will not take it very uh, like in a good manner because what happens is compliance is a law there in US and mainly in US and Europe. It's a law. It's applicable by law. And if you don't follow the compliance, they can take action against you. Maybe they can cancel the license. So what do I mean by compliance, right? Let me give you some very small examples and then I think you should be able to understand. For example, I'm a company that is dealing with finances, right? Like money. So in my case, the customer data, like how much money that customer has, for example, a bank, right? They won't leak your data. They won't show that this customer has this much money in their account because that is a very critical information or very personal information that is very important for bank. I won't share that data with anyone, right? And I will make sure that the data is secured and encrypted and can only be accessible by the authorized or authenticated person. I don't want that data to be shared by anyone else, right? Now let's take an example of healthcare department, right? There we call it like a HIPAA compliance. So in that case, the healthcare data, for example, what is the illness for a particular person, right? I don't want to share it with anyone else because obviously it can be misused, right? That data can be misused. So in healthcare department, the medical data of a person is really important. So they make every, you can say, possible security. They take every possible security measures to secure the data so that the data is not like leaked, hacked, or shared by anyone else, right? Apart, like it should be only accessible by the authorized person or the person the data belongs to. Okay, and just the hospital and the person should be able to access the data. So that is what a compliance is. So compliance is kind of a set of rules that the companies have to follow when they are storing or handling the data. And if they are not following that, then obviously that is unlawful for those countries. Like in Asian countries, or mainly in like African countries and Asian countries, that is like that is not applicable by law, but that is just a standard that they have to follow. Okay, but in US and Europe, your European countries, it's applicable by law. So if you don't follow that law, for example, the data, right? If the country says that the data should remain within the country, for example, US, it enforces that the data should not leave US region, right? US data should not leave that particular region. In that case, if you are a security engineer, you will have to make sure, you'll have to put several guardrails around it, that the data should only be stored in the US region, and like you have to have a guardrail that the data should not leave that particular region. Like it should not be stored in Europe or any other country apart from US. So those are the guidelines, those are the set of rules that we follow under the compliance, and that is what compliance is. So if you don't follow compliance, obviously the companies will be like, the licenses can be cancelled, the companies can be suspended. So multiple things can happen because they are applicable by law. So this is very important for the company. So without this, the company cannot operate. Mostly the big companies, all of them has certain certifications, because whatever you buy, right? Like for example, if you buy a product, you may have seen ISO certification there. Like it says like ISO, ISI mark, right? Hallmarks are there. So those are compliances. So that means like whenever you see a hallmark, whenever you see a ISO mark or ISI mark, that says the company has gone through, you can say, several audits, and they have passed those audits to get their certifications. So that's why whenever we are buying something, we always look for certification that the company has certified for these various standards. If they are not, then obviously the company is not handling your data properly, or maybe they are not certified because they are not fulfilling certain requirements. Okay, because usually the companies will have to apply for getting a compliance certificate. So if they don't pass the certificate, they won't get the certificate. As simple as that. And then the company will lose the customer trust, reputation, and this revenue obviously will be affected because of that. Okay. So usually, whenever we are working as a cybersecurity analyst, right, there's something called a CIA triad. So it is not a technology, you can say. It is just a rule. It's kind of a, how do I put it? It's just a thinking, or just uh, uh, what is it called? A roadmap kind of a thing, right? If you follow this, you will be secured. It's kind of that, right? So the CIA triad is a core security objectives that every like security engineer has to follow. So what is that? Like what is CIA triad? So first thing is confidentiality. We want the information to be accessible only. As I was saying, we want the data to be only accessible by the authorized person, user or system, or anyone who is authorized. Only they will able to see the data, right? So for example, here it says hospital encrypts patient data, right? Because that data is really sensitive, and it should be only accessible by the patient or their own family if they are authorized to do so. Okay. So in that case, usually confidentiality is the very biggest thing in any, you can say, organization. Okay. And the main thing is confidential data can change based on the organization. For example, in a hospital, the confidential data or the sensitivity will be around the patient data, right? In banking department, patient data holds no value. They will be handling their confidentiality about the financial data, right? So the financial data is really important for them. Patient data has nothing to do with the banking system, right? And vice versa. Like each department has their different, you can say, priorities. Okay, so confidentiality is very important, but it changes based on different various. It can like change with various organizations or departments. Okay, now what is the failure? So if the data, for example, if the data is leaked by somehow, like maybe your data was hacked by something, right? Most of the times, by the way, whenever hacking takes place, right, it is always a human mistake. Machines do not make mistakes, by the way. Machines do not make mistakes. Whenever a human is involved, only most of the times, the humans are exploited into giving the data. So, for example, even yeah, let's take this failure example as an example, right? So, for example, as a company, I have put all the guardrails in place so that the data doesn't get hacked, right? And the data is encrypted end to end, and only the authorized person can access. I have put all the guardrails, right? But what if you, as a person, send the data to a wrong customer? So the security was in place. You were the authorized person. But what happened due to your mistake, a human mistake? What did you do? You sent the data to the to a different customer, and what happened? The data got leaked by mistake only, but it got leaked, right? So there are multiple human mistakes. For example, spam folders. What happens is whenever a hacking attempt takes place, right? What happens is we just click on a like miscellaneous links. We click on links that have like malicious viruses into it, right? A human clicks into it and then they get hacked, and there are like multiple viruses and multiple malwares into the system, right? So most of the times it's humans that are making mistake, but that's a very genuine mistake, right? So as a cybersecurity engineer, you will have to take care about those things also. So SOC, what is a SOC? So SOC is basically what happens is it's a, a security framework that the cybersecurity engineers handle or they follow, right? So what happens here is a database dump stolen by an attacker. So according to SOC, what can happen is, for example, I have the data, right, in my server, and what happens is an attacker gets into my company and they download somehow they get into my database and they download all the data from my database, right? Now they have all the data with them, and this can be called as a confidentiality incident. Because see, anything like this is just one example, right? But anything that that's connected to hacking, right? Or you giving the information somehow to someone that is malicious, right? A malicious user, a malicious virus, or whatever. Like however you share the data and the data gets into the wrong hand, right? That can be considered as a confidentiality incident because you leaked the confidential data and it got leaked by you or by someone doing the mistake, or somehow hacker took control of it and they downloaded the data and the data got. So this thing is called a confidentiality incident. So usually what happens is, as a cybersecurity engineer, confidentiality is something that is very much important for you to handle, because this is what the companies are paying you for, because you want to maintain the confidentiality. Okay, second thing is integrity. Integrity is also a very important part. So for example, you sent a mail, right? And I, as a security engineer, will have to make sure whatever data is being transferred from one place to another place, maybe from your company to a different company or to your customer or to your vendors, right? Wherever you are storing or transmitting a data, remember there are two kinds of data encryption. Okay, one is called data at rest, and the second is called data at data at transmission. I think, yeah. So what happens is whenever you're storing a data, for example, you're storing data into a hard drive or to a storage device, right? Anywhere, doesn't matter, anywhere. You have to make sure the data, first of all, the data is encrypted and the data is digitally signed. So that makes the data trustworthy, and it also makes sure that the data, whatever you are handling, is digitally correct. So what do I mean by digitally correct is, for example, take the example of WhatsApp, right? Maybe you guys use WhatsApp, right? So what happens is whenever you are sending a data to someone, okay, and your WhatsApp and your mobile has some kind of encryption. It's like optional, by the way. You can enable the encryption into your WhatsApp, and then the data at rest will be encrypted. So what happens is only you will be able to read the data because your data is encrypted by a phone, and the phone has the encryption decrypt also. So what happens is whenever you send the data or whenever you send a message to someone else, right, that key is also shared with that particular person. so that they can decrypt the data on their side and read the message. So what happens is the data is stored at your side as well, and when you are sending the data, right, the data is also encrypted at that point. So that even if I interpret the data or intercept the data somehow, the data will be encrypted for me, because without the proper key, I cannot open the data. So whenever we are sharing the data, we have to always make sure whatever we are sending should reach fully there, and the data should not be tampered with. Okay, so whenever I send a message, like usually what used to happen earlier was there was an attack called man in the middle attack, or MITM. That was a very famous attack. So what used to happen was whenever a sender is sending the data, right, the data got intercepted, or it got rerouted through a malicious device, right, and then the malicious device user was able to read the data and then tamper the data. For example, you said, hey, how are you? So I, as a malicious user, I would intercept the data because the data is not encrypted. I can read the whole data. I can change the data, modify it, and then again send it to the receiver. No one will ever know that the data was tampered with, because there was no integrity check and there was no encryption. Okay, so I was able to read the data and change the data or modify the data in transit. So usually what the companies did is they put some encryption, and they started doing like they started putting some kind of, you can say, checks, integrity checks in between, right? So what happens is whenever the data gets generated, whenever you send hi or anything, right, there is there is a value that gets generated. It's called a hash value, right? It gets generated and the value is calculated. So for example, the value is, for example, 128 KB, 256 KB, whatever that is. Like it's a random value, by the way. When the data reaches to the endpoint, right, to me or to the receiver, that value is recalculated. So if the value matches to the sent value, right, that means the data is fully transmitted and you have received the full data. But if the value changes, that means maybe there may be two scenarios. If the value changes, right? So that means maybe the data is not fully received, right? It got dropped in between, or maybe someone tampered with your data. So what happens is that connection gets dropped, a new connection is like created, and then again the data is resent to you. Again, the whole process goes on. The data is calculated, encrypted, and then sent to the receiver. The receiver mobile receives it. Again, it decrypts the data, calculates the hash value. If it is correct, if it is matching, it will open the data. So that is what integrity means. So if you see failure means attacker changes the bank account number in an invoice, right? So for example, you're digitally receiving the data, right? And your data is not encrypted. So as an attacker, I can intercept that data, and then I can make changes to that data as a, and it's really easy to do that. So that's why we use encryption. We use SSL certificates. We use some kind of like keys, and multiple things are there to encrypt. But we use like different types of authentication for encrypting the data. Okay. And for SSC, a malicious script that modifies record or configurations. So this is called an integrity incident. So whenever someone is tampering with your original data and they are doing changes to the data or changing the configurations or multiple things in your data, right? Any modifications with your original data is called data tampering, or it can be called as an integrity incident. Okay, and that is really important, because obviously whatever I'm sending to you, if it is getting intercepted, that means your data is leaked now. Anyone is able to read the data, and the data has been tampered with, and then whatever receiver is getting the data, obviously I will never know that you are not the one who sent me that, because I will get the tampered data and I will think that okay, you have sent me, because in the background you can never see where the data is flowing from, until and unless you are mapping the whole network, and that is not very possible. Then availability. As I said, availability is the most important part for any business, right? We want the first of all the systems to be reachable. For example, using WhatsApp, right? We use that. We want the WhatsApp to be running in the first place. If the WhatsApp servers are down, obviously you cannot send anything, and the WhatsApp, like, you will stop using it, right? If there is like more and more downtime on WhatsApp, you will always move away from WhatsApp and use a different, you can say, platform that is reliable, that has more uptime, and that is like handling all the main things that you are required, right? For example, data is secured, data is reachable, systems are up, right? Those kinds of things. We don't want anything that like that is down most of the time. We don't want that, right? Because that affects the customer and the company as well. So usually any system, right, or data, that we want the data or the system to be reachable at any given time, and in terms of security, by the authorized users only when they need them. For example, you're going to Amazon.com, right? You can use Amazon.com without logging in, but there will be certain, you can say, features, or there will be certain things that you will not be able to use, right? Unless you log in. And once you log in, only your user specific data will show up, or your user specific search history will show up, and what products you like, and then the suggestions will come up based on your user. Okay, so those are the things that the systems want, right? So we want the systems to be available at any given time, and the data should also be available. Like, it's not like the system is opening and the data is not there, or you're not able to log in because the user got deleted somehow. So we don't want those kinds of hassles, right? So we want availability at any given time. Okay. So for example, clinic scheduling system must be online during working hours, because, for example, you're going to a doctor, you want to make an appointment first. To do that, because like you want to make an appointment to know first of all, like what is the clinic's timing, right? Will the doctor be available? You want to like do everything, and then we schedule the meeting for the doctor, right? So to do that, first of all, we need to go to the website, and we want the website to be available to us to do that. So if the website is not available, if it is down, we cannot do it. Okay. And the second thing is failure. It can be like ransomware. Ransomware and DDoS, right? These are the two very common attacks happening on any website. Any website. I'm talking about any website, not even just famous websites. It can be done on any website, and that is very common. Even if you build a website, right? Maybe from scratch. After a while, maybe in 2, 3, 4 months, right, you will see a DDoS attack happening on your websites. It's that common. Even if no one knows, the attack might happen. So it's that common. Okay, because somehow the data will get leaked because you have created a web page, and that web page will be pushed by internet. Like someone will stumble upon your website somehow, right? So the data gets, like, if you are on the internet, obviously the data will start reaching to multiple people. Okay, so the thing is, in that case, multiple attacks can happen. Someone can try to attack a website and get the data from your website, or maybe if they are not able to get the data, they want to take down your website somehow. They want to affect your availability, because what happens is whenever the DDoS attack happens, the site will stop responding to anyone. It's like they flood the website with so much requests that the website will get overwhelmed with the request, and then stop responding. Take an example what a DDoS attack is. For example, you are a shopkeeper, right? 10 people comes to you and they ask for certain products, and you obviously you can cater 10 people. That should not be a very big problem, right? That's the limit. You can cater only 10 people at a time. What happens if hundreds and thousands of people come at the same time and ask for product from you, and you are the only one who's standing there and like catering to the customers? You will be overwhelmed with so much users that you will stop doing the service. You will say that, hey, come 10 at a time, only then I will cater you, because this is obviously beyond my reach. I cannot even cater all of you, right? So that is what a DDoS attack is. Overwhelm the server or the system with so many requests that the system stops responding. And that is a very common attack. Okay. And that is what the SOC thing is. So the web server knocked offline by ransomware or denial of service. And that is called an availability incident. And that is the most common thing what happens with the web servers. Okay, so what happens is when the servers are flooded with so many requests that the servers will stop responding right away. So your job will be maintaining these three things for those companies. You will have to follow the CIA triad. You will have to make sure that these three things should be implemented for those companies and should be taken care of at any given time. That's why it is called a CIA triad, because this is the most important pillars of cybersecurity for a company. In terms of company, we're talking about in terms of business, okay? and that is a very common sense. Like obviously, you want confidentiality, integrity, and availability at any given time. So okay, yeah, I didn't tell you about the ransomware, right? So ransomware is like, uh, how do I put it? In human terms, it's like kidnapping. So what happens is I get your data. Like I'm not fetching the data. I can do that. Like usually, what hackers do is they download the data on their side and then they encrypt the whole data. So what I said about encryption right now is you require a key, right? Like encryption is like a lock. You require a key, and only that key can decrypt the data. Without that key, there is no other way to decrypt the data. So what hackers do, either see, if I am the person who is encrypting the data, obviously I will have the key, right? But somehow, if hackers get into our system, what they do is they download the data, right? They get the data, and then they encrypt the data with their key. So now you don't have the key, the hackers have the key. And why it is called a ransomware? Because they will ask you for the ransom. Because the data is so sensitive, maybe it's a company data, right? It's a PI, it's a proprietary, like intellectual property. Okay. So what happens is because you want those data by any, like by any means, you want that data because that is your source of income for the business, right? So what happens is, as a hacker, I will demand some money for you. I'll say that, hey, I have the data. Your current data is decrypted or encrypted. Sorry, yeah, it's encrypted. I have the key, and if you give me this much money, I can give you the key, and then you can decrypt the data and start using the data. That is what a ransomware is. And the main thing is that the hacker may download the data and they will never tell you because they can sell off the data again to anyone else. There is no guarantee. Same as the kidnapping, there is no guarantee. Even if you pay them, they will give you the person or whatever they have taken, right? So ransomware is like a digital kidnapping kind of thing. They encrypt your data, they ask you for money, and there's no guarantee that they will, even after getting the money, they will give the key, or they have not downloaded the data, or they will not sell the data to anyone else. So there's no guarantee for that. So that is what a ransomware attack is. And these are the very common attacks that can happen with your websites, even with your PCs. So if a hacker gets into your PC, they can encrypt your whole PC. So that's why this thing companies are very cautious about because their data is mostly sensitive. In our case, for example, if an attacker gets in and encrypts everything, I just format the PC. I don't have anything that is very sensitive or that may impact my life, right? But business data are really sensitive. They can impact the business directly. The business may be taken down by just doing like encrypting the data of that business. So these are very critical scenarios that as a cybersecurity engineers we will have to tackle, right? And there are ways, there are multiple, you can say pathways, there are multiple, you can say roadmaps that we can follow to avoid them, right? And that is what we are doing, or that is what we will be learning about, like what can be done in these situations. Even if a data is hacked, what can we do to remediate that? That is the whole thinking that we'll be learning about. Okay. Then there is risk, threat, vulnerability, and controls. And this is where mainly where we get into the cybersecurity domain. Like this was just to tell us like what can happen or what is something that the company requires at most, right? But this is where we come in because this was all about company. This was not about the user. This was all about the company. That the scenarios can happen. The company wants this from you. The company wants that from you, right? Compliance and all those things. But this is where you come in as a cybersecurity analyst, and this is about you. First of all, you will have to look at assets. You will have to maintain the assets. You will have to know about the assets. For example, you are securing because as a cybersecurity engineer, you'll be securing some things, right? To secure anything, you have to know about that product. For example, you're securing a house, right? You're a guard to a house or a company. What you have to do is you have to know everything about the company and its parameters. For example, how many entry gates are there, right? What kind of security is there on those gates? Is there any way else, or is there a backdoor that anyone can use to get in, right? Those are the things. You have to know everything about the assets. Asset means whatever you are protecting, you have to know about them. If it is a laptop, what is installed on that laptop? Is there something that should not be there? It is there. So you have to know about everything. right? So for example, your company denies that you cannot install Zoom, and you find that on some laptops or certain laptops you have Zoom installed. That is against the company policy. That is you will have to enforce that no one can install Zoom in the first place. So you have to manage anything that is valuable for the organization will be your responsibility as a cybersecurity engineer or as a security engineer. That will be your responsibility to manage, right? This is where you come in. So you will handle all the assets on which the company relies on or which the organization relies on and you want to protect or the organization wants to protect, because those are the systems or those can be termed as endpoints that is connected to the company, and even if one endpoint is compromised, the company data may get compromised. For example, you are an employee of a company and that company is having all kinds of protection, right? But as an employee you have all the authentication things with you, right? You can authenticate and you can get into the company system and you can do your work. But the problem is, what if you get compromised? Somehow I take control of your laptop and I see that once you authenticate, right, I take control. What will happen? Now I will not let you run the laptop. I will just start getting the data through your laptop. And what will happen is whenever someone will see the logs, they will see you doing that thing because you were compromised. So as a security engineer, I have to make sure that all my assets are secured at any given time so that my business remains protected. That's why I said most of the times it's the humans that are the weakest point in terms of security or the weak points in terms of security. That's why there is a lot of, you can say, information that is given to the team members regarding to security, that you should not open anonymous mails, you should not open anything that is suspicious, you should not open spam links, you should not take calls, those kinds of things, right? There is a information that is shared to the colleagues. So that is what it is, right? So assets are your main, you can say, properties that you will have to protect. Then there is threat. Threat means there are multiple kinds of threats that you will have to deal with as a security engineer. For example, attackers are the very common one. Then malwares are something that is very common. Malwares means like viruses, right? So malwares, Trojan horse, there are multiple kinds of them, but we call it them malware. Like generalize them into a single category that is called malware, right? So those threats are something that you will have to take care about. So if an attacker attacks the system, you are the one who will be the first line of defense. You will be the one who will be taking in charge and then remediating that issue and then protecting your systems or your assets from the attacker. So there are multiple threats. There may be attackers, there will be malwares, insider misuse. Insider misuse, as I said, if I get into your system somehow, you are the authenticated person, and then I can misuse your authentication to get into the company and deal damage to the company and its data. So that is what the insider misuse is. Okay, then there is natural disaster. This is usually not your domain, but what happens is sometimes it also falls back to us. So mainly natural disasters, hardware failures, and human errors, right? This is usually not our domain, but the engineers also come into play here, because if you remember, we were talking about availability, right? So we have to make sure, because there is not only one incident that can lose the data. For example, if our servers are compromised, uh, maybe someone took the whole server with them. There's a server theft, right? Someone took the server, or somehow my hardware got failed. Like there is a hardware failure, right? There was a natural disaster, my server got destroyed. What will happen if there is no backups? So as a security engineer, I'll have to make sure to maintain the availability, that even if any natural disaster happens or a hardware failure happens, there's a theft or anything, right? Nothing should happen to my data. My data should always be secured and there should always be a backup. And in ransomware also, what we do is whenever we have a backup, for example, we have a backup, we always remove the whole thing and then restore the backup. But the main point is in ransomware, things are a little bit critical, because if it is something that is an intellectual property and it goes into the wrong hand, then obviously a business may suffer. So in that case, you don't have a lot of choices. Then there is vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities are the main thing. Usually, most of the times you'll be dealing with vulnerabilities. So vulnerabilities can be of multiple types. Multiple types. In day-to-day life, you also will be dealing with multiple vulnerabilities. For example, you may have open, like you're creating a system, right? And you open some ports that are not supposed to be open. Some ports means ports are like gateways to your computers. So if you have a certain port open that you should not have supposed to open, then the attacker can hijack that port and get into your system. And by the way, there are 65,536 ports in your PC. So that's a lot of them. But by default, mainly what happens is the ports are closed off. By default, they're closed until and unless a software opens that port. For example, I install a malware, and that malware is sending the data through port 666, maybe, right? So in your system, you will see that port 666 is open. So in that case, you will have to make sure as a cybersecurity engineer about what is running on your system, right? What ports are being utilized? Are we running any software that is unpatched? Because usually what happens is whenever we find a software, right? That is, for example, a paid software is there. what certain people will do is, not certain people, a lot of people do is, they go and look for a cracked software, right? Anything that is cracked, and they download those softwares and they start using it. Most of the times what happens is behind the cracked software, because we don't know what is inside it, we just care about the software, we just install it and start using. But what happens is, as a hacker, what I can do is I can use the same software, I can buy up that software, but before putting the software on the internet, right, what I will do is I'll put some malicious content into that. So the moment you install the software, and by the way, let me tell you, those softwares, when they get installed, you will never know when the malicious things get installed on your PC. You will never notice it. That's why we use antivirus and other things, so that they can run in the background and they can find out anything that looks suspicious or that does not uh, like uh, uh, comes within the criteria of signature. So usually what I'm talking about is this thing. If you remember this thing, where is that thing? Signed softwares. Yeah, there it is. Digitally signed softwares. So what happens is whenever a company builds a software, right, they digitally sign it with their own key. So what happens is those keys are authenticated and they are verified. So whenever I say, for example, an Apple laptop is there, right? Apple signs their software with their own key, and whenever the softwares or the systems or the antivirus or any protection, like any security software that goes through that Apple software, right? They will look at the digitally signed keys, and if the key matches, that will pass. Otherwise, it will fail and it gets flagged down. So that's why whenever you're installing a third-party software, your antivirus may tell you that, hey, you're installing something that may be harmful for your computer, and we don't want that. So usually using weak passwords, unpatched softwares, doing misconfigurations. What do I mean by misconfigurations is, for example, same thing. You created something, right? And you forgot to, for example, you logged into your Windows instance, or you created a Windows machine, right? Or a Linux machine, anything, but you forgot to put a password, or maybe you didn't use a strong password. The password is very weak, right? That too is considered as a misconfiguration. Something by mistake or knowingly you left that can be misused or exploited by the attacker. That is called a misconfiguration, right? Poor training is the same thing that, like, for example, I'm training you, you're not listening, and maybe that thing happened to you. And because you didn't listen and you didn't know about that, you got exploited by that particular vulnerability or that particular malware or software, whatever that is. Okay. And the exposed port, I already told you about that. The port is exposed, and as an attacker, I can get into that port. So usually that is a very important part. Then the risk. Risk means, see, there's always a thing, right? So what happens is whenever I'm hiring you and you fail to do anything, the risk belongs to you and my resources as well, because of you, because of your misconfigurations and your you can say poor training, right? My data got hijacked, exploited, right? And it impacted my assets. So then there is a risk for the company and there is a risk for you as well, because then I'll fire you, right? So there is always a risk. So like a potential risk to loss or damage when the threat is successfully exploited. For example, as a hacker, you as a defender was there. As a hacker, I was trying to attack your systems and I somehow got into your system. Then your system is compromised. And as a security expert, you failed to protect your asset. That means there's a risk. Now your asset is compromised. Everything is in my hands and will lose your job. So it's very sensitive. Working as a security engineer is a real sensitive job. It's like a, you can say, a police kind of job. So you are the protector. And then there's control. So control means you are the one who will be taking preventive measures, doing the detective work. Detective work means, for example, if an attack happened, how did the attack happen? Because only then you will know what happened in the real time and then take measures to avoid that in the future or correct yourself, right? Or make your system more secure, because now you have seen that this kind of attack was happened, right? And that means your system is vulnerable to these kinds of attacks because of this vulnerability. Then you go and patch those vulnerabilities, right? And wherever needed, you will have to compensate as well. So as an analyst, you will have to first of all identify the asset, determine the threat, find the vulnerability. Like as I'm saying, like as a detective, this is a detective work, right? First, you will have to identify the asset, like which asset got, you can say, uh, got exploited, right? Then you will have to determine the threat. Like if the asset got exploited, what is my blast radius? Blast radius means like what are the things within that resource that got exploited or that got into like exposure. Okay, and then you will have to find the vulnerability, like how that exploit took place. Then you will have to estimate the impact, what resources or whatever within that like particular you can say asset, right? What resources got exploited. So what was my blast radius? And then recommend a control. Because if once you know that what was exploited, how much it got exploited, then only you can recommend a control. Then only you can tell the solution that, okay, these are the specific, sorry, my bad. These are the specific, you can say, remediation steps that you can take to remediate those issues or to remediate that vulnerability or to stop the vulnerability from like moving ahead. So that is what an attack surface is. So that is what the detective work that you will have to do. You will have to get into the attack surface. You'll have to understand your attack surface. So attack surface means, okay, that is really important to understand, by the way. So attack surface means what are the things. For example, you have a laptop. Let's take an example. You have a laptop, you have a Wi-Fi router into your home, and you have multiple other you can say devices. For example, you have your mobiles, your family may have mobiles, right? So think it like this. Let me open a whiteboard so that I can explain you very easily, because that is a very important part to understand. That is called an attack surface. Let me say. Okay, let me remove this and here. Okay, let's start. So what happens is, for example, you have a home, right? In this home, you have a laptop, right? For example, you have a laptop, you have a mobile phone, right? You have a mobile phone, then you have a router that is like giving you the internet, right? You have a router, and the router is connected to the, like the mobile is connected to the router, the laptop is connected to the router, right? And there may be other devices as well, like depends if you have smart devices or other things. Maybe you have Google or Alexa kind of things, right? Devices that are connected, like IoT devices connected to it. So what happens is these are the devices that are connected to you, right? So these can be referred to your attack surfaces, because these are the assets that you have, and the more assets you have, the more attack surface you will have. For example, your router is secured somehow, right? I get into a router, what will happen is, because from this router I can even reach into these things, because now when I'm inside your router, that means I'm inside your network as well, right? So whoever is part of your router, they can access your internal network. Okay. Then as an internal network, I can access this machine, this machine, this machine, because I know I can reach these machines now. So I can start running vulnerabilities for these machines. And whenever I find a vulnerability, I will start to exploit those vulnerabilities and get into these machines. So the more assets you have, the more attack surface area you will have, right? So that is what an attack surface area is. There are multiple ways, by the way, to attack, but like it depends on machine to machine. For example, a very common one is called phishing. Phishing means I'll send you a mail, and that mail says, for example, your account has $200,000, right? And just click this link to open and claim that amount. So that is a very common one. Sorry. So what happens is, if I click on that link, right, what happens is my data starts getting leaked because some malware get installed or something, right? There are multiple ways to do that. So in that case, what happens is, due to that phishing, my data get leaked, right? And a malware got installed, and obviously there was an attack that was successfully done. Okay. So your computer was that asset. So now what happened is your computer got compromised. Okay. So the more devices you will deal with, the more attack surface area you will have. And there are multiple attacks that I can do to exploit those surfaces. Surfaces means like this thing. These are called surfaces, like this one, this one, this one, this one. The more devices, the more assets you have, the more surface you are covering. That means the more things you'll have to secure. Because now once you have these 4 devices, you will have to secure this one, this one, this one, and this one. You will have to make sure that all these devices are secured. And if you bring in a new device, maybe a mobile or a laptop again, you will have to make sure that this one is also configured. There should be no misconfigurations, no open ports, that this can be exploited. Because even one get exploited, everyone every other device or every other asset is at risk now. Because now I'm within the network and I'm within the reach of these devices. So that is what attack surface area means. I hope that is clear. For example, let me give an example. If you are one person, right, and I'm a single person, so if I'm going to fight you, or for example, I have a gun or anything, right, then you only have to protect yourself from my attack because you're a single person. What if there are like 10 persons behind you or with you? There are 10 persons, right? And you are the one who is in charge of securing all of those. So the more the person, the more attack surface area is for you. Now I have that many targets to do. So now I can exploit anyone, I can harm anyone, and you are the one who will be handling all those things. So that is what your attack surface area is. The more the devices, the more assets, the more chances the attacker will have. But obviously you cannot reduce them because those assets are really important for your business and for your company, right? So it will be your job to handle and to fend off those attacks. And here we'll be seeing like what kind of attacks can happen or can be done on your surface or on your assets. Okay, so basically, and these are like possible entry points. As I said, like the more people you have, the more chances or the more targets I have to exploit, right? So that means I have more surface to cover and you have more surface to defend. So that is what it means. That means I have more possible entry points that the attacker can use. It can be internet facing servers, it can be VPN portals, cloud consoles, remote desktops, multiple things are there, right? So reducing the attack surface area is often cheaper and more effective than detecting every attack after exposure. Same thing. See, you will try, for example, you will never want, like you are supposed to handle and secure all these users, right? Because you are the in charge, you will always make sure that you always put up defenses in advance. You will not wait for an attacker to attack them and then only you put the defenses. No, you will put the defenses prior to an attack, because you never know, the attack can happen anytime, right? There's no no one will come at and say you that, hey, I'm going to attack you. No one. So you will put up
Prevention is better
defenses.
than cure.
Exactly, you got the point. So prevention is better than cure. And that is the whole point as a security analyst or security engineer, right? We want to put up fences around any kind of attack that can happen, and you will have to think of them prior to the attack, because that is less costly than after the attack you start remediating things, right? That is less costly, because once the attack has happened, you're already compromised, right? Then you will have to go see the logs, do multiple things, use tools and whatnot, right? That is very costly and time consuming, right? And once the attack has happened, that means you're already compromised. Your defenses were not there and it was not good. So you're already compromised and you never know how much data you lost. So it's always a good chance, good thing to reduce the attack surface area by putting up defenses in advance rather than letting the attack happen and then fixing it. Yeah, so the most common attack that I was talking about is phishing, and that is the most you can say common one also, that everyone would have seen. Everyone, right? Everyone would have got spam mails or malicious links, right? That if you click it, obviously you will get compromised. Hope everyone has seen these kinds of mails, right? In their spam. Like if no one has seen it, or if someone has not seen it, just go to your email and look for a spam folder. You will see. So basically, these are like fraudulent, misleading links or misleading attachments, right? That can reveal your credentials, that can send your sensitive information to the attacker. So never, never open anything that looks suspicious or that is malicious, that you don't recognize, or that is not, you can say, uh, credible. Okay. So for example, fake Microsoft 365 password reset email. Like I can say, same thing. I can say that your banking, that there has been a change in the banking software or a banking policy. So to be compliant to that banking policy, you will have to re-log in and re-authenticate yourself. So what happens is I'll give you a link that I can say that, hey, go to this link and then you will be re-authenticated, and it's just a one-time process. So once you do it, you will be good. So what you do is you will never know, because these mails look so genuine because they gather data around you. They know what you're doing. So until the data is leaked, right, they will never know what is happening. So they come prepared. They know some of your background. Okay. So what happens is whenever I send you a link, I will know. Sometimes people take guesses also, but most of the times, usually the things are successful only when I know about you. For example, I know that you work for an XYZ bank or you have an account in XYZ bank, right? And what I'll do is I'll take my chance. I'll give you a link. I'll say that this is a one-time process. You just do it and you will be good to go. You don't have to go to bank for that. You just click on this link, fill up this form, fill in this information, and you should be good. So it looks so genuine. Maybe what happens is, for example, your bank has a website called xyz.com, right? So usually what the attacker can do, it can be, they can create a domain called xy-z.com. You will never, because usually when people are looking at things, they never look closely, right? You can get misleaded. You can click on the link and then you fill in the process where you put in your username and ID and other things, and that data is sensitive, and then because the data has reached to me, then I can go to your real bank portal and put in that ID and then do whatever I want to do, because now I'm authenticated. So that kind of thing, always beware about those things, and that is what phishing is. Okay, so obviously every time look at the sender email, make sure you recognize it, right? Make sure that should be genuine, and if it looks suspicious, do not open until you verify that, okay, this is a verified person or a verified company that is sending you the link, and the link makes sense and it's verified. So do not open until that. Then there is ransomware. Ransomware we have already talked about, right? So ransomware means uh, online kidnapping kind of thing, right? So where I can encrypt your data, encrypt your whole system maybe, right? And then demand payment for decrypting it. So it's like extortion, right? So I could have downloaded your data and then I can say that, hey, I have the key, give me the money, I'll give you the key, and then you can decrypt your data. But the problem is you will never know, even if you pay me am I going to give you the key? Even if I give you, there is no guarantee I won't. I didn't have downloaded your data and then I won't sell it off to someone else. There is no guarantee for that. So that is what a ransomware is. Basically, to handle ransomware, what we do is usually what we do is like take backups, right? There is always a backup on a different system, because if you take backup on the same system, right? So take an example. I'm saying about backups, right? And if I say, for example, I have a system and I have a hard drive, maybe an external hard drive attached to the system, right? And I'm taking backup to this hard drive for the system. A ransomware attack happened, right? The malware got installed and it started encrypting everything. Remember one thing, this hard drive is also connected to this PC, right? This hard drive will also encrypt. So what happened to your backup? Your backup is also encrypted now. Or you are doing a backup in a different folder into your own PC. Like this is the PC and you're taking backup into this PC within a folder, within a drive. So what happens is, because this is also part of your PC, the PC is encrypted and your whole data is also encrypted here. So always make sure you have a backup at an isolated place. For example, you take the backup in an external drive and remove the drive. There should be no connection between this PC and this PC or this drive or whatever you are taking backup of. They should be totally isolated from each other. There should be no connectivity. That's how the backup should be done. Otherwise, if I can reach as an attacker, I can reach this particular place as well, because they are connected together. I can encrypt this as well. Or whatever is connected. For example, there's one more system that is connected to this particular place. I can encrypt it as well, because now those systems are reachable to me. And it will keep on encrypting until there's something that like it finds nothing to encrypt. So always remember, the backup should be done into a separate isolated place. Never do the backup on the same system or something that is connected to the system directly and reachable. So just be aware about that, right? And that is the only thing that you can do to avoid ransomware attack. But still, again, same thing. There is no guarantee that the data will not be sell off to a different customer or to someone else. So that is the risk that you'll have to. So usually attackers use stolen VPN credentials. Like, see, whenever I'm stealing a data, most of the times I'll be looking forward to stealing the credentials, because those are the most important things. Because once I have the credentials, I can log into various places and get your data or do things that are not supposed to be done. Move laterally. Move laterally means, this is called move laterally, from one system to other system, from this system to this system. This is called a lateral movement. So if these systems are connected together and they are reachable, obviously my malware or my ransomware virus can encrypt this system, then it can reach this system and then encrypt this one, then reach this system and then encrypt this one. So that is what is called a lateral movement, right? And encrypt file shares overnight and encrypt everything. And then you will not be able to do anything. So what is the impact of those things? Halted service, obviously, because the data is encrypted, no one can use it. Recovery costs become very high. Legal exposures, because your data that was sensitive got leaked. And reputation damage is something that obviously you have to deal with. That your reputation got damaged because you were not able to secure your environment. So that is like really important. Okay. Then there is Trojan. Trojan is also a very common thing. So in Trojan, what happens is I install a virus that gets into your system and then I take control of the system. I can remotely handle your system. Like that is very common with mobile phones. So maybe I can put a Trojan into your mobile and then I can take control of your file manager, your cameras, your mics or anything. So that is a very common one, and that's the most easiest thing to build, by the way. But do not do it. It's not legal. But that's really easy. And then there's spyware. Spyware is the same thing. Spyware can be like, I can spy on you. Trojans can help you do that, right? So spyware is basically something as a keylogger. I can log whatever you're typing, right? I can see your screenshots. I can handle your browser history. I can look at your file manager. I can look for credentials, everything. Spy means I'm spying on you. I'm getting data that I'm not supposed to have, right? And usually in spyware, we want a long-term persistent. For example, it's not like I just hack to your system and I steal your data today and tomorrow I don't have the connection anymore. It should not be like that. Usually as a hacker, I want a persistent connection that I want to be connected as long as possible to your system and get as much data as possible. So usually a spyware is used in those things, like to get the information that is really sensitive. Then there is insider threat. Insider threat, same thing as I've explained to you, that if I somehow compromise the employee or the contractor or the partner of the company because they are careless, right? They did something that they're not supposed to, and then now I have the control of the system. Obviously, I can breach your systems now because I'm authenticated. I will be behaving as you because I have compromised your system that is already authorized to take control of the company or the organization. So I can do anything. That is called an insider threat. And then business email compromise. So this is also very important. Again, see, business email means usually what happens is the executor or the attacker impersonates your business. As I said, xyz.com or xyz-.com or something that looks similar. So usually what happens is these kinds of fraudulence are very like common in basically in banking accounts or in banking things, right? Or maybe in social media also. That's very like easy to do. So Instagram.com. It can be insta-gram.com, insta_gram.com. No one will notice. So that is what a business email compromise is. Mainly show yourself as a legitimate person and then manipulate the customer or the partner or whoever that is, right? To do or to make it more legitimate so that they follow what they do. Like for example, a banking software. They make your website look like the banking software as close as possible. The link should be same. The page content should be same. The victim should never realize that they're not on the correct platform and they fill in their own data with confidence and then you get the data. So you don't want to do that. Okay. Uh, yeah. So social engineering attack and softwareized thinking. This is the same thing, by the way. Social engineering attack is the same thing that I was talking about right now. For example, Instagram, Facebook, right? What I'm doing is I am impersonating as someone else. For example, I impersonate the whole page of Instagram, and that is really easy to do. Give me a second. Oh, okay. So, like usually, what we want to do is, as a social engineering attack, is we want to impersonate someone. We want to impersonate and look legitimate, right? So, the usually what happens is the attacker exploit the trust, fear, and urgency, curiosity, authority, and greed of a person. Okay. So usually what happens is we want to like I want to show that okay your bank is compromised somehow. Do one thing, go to this platform or go to this link and like fill in your information and we will handle that for you or we will do things for you that will remediate that, right? So those are the things that the attackers do. They put you in an emergency situation so that you stop thinking, you stop like looking at things for verifying them. You don't want to do that. That is not what the hackers want, right? So that is very easy to exploit, and that is what it says, like machines are not exploitable, usually the humans are exploitable. So attackers usually want one of four things. They want either your credentials, money, access, or information from you. Okay, and user does not need to be careless for social engineering attack to be work. As I said, usually we open Instagram.com, right? I forward a link. I said that hey, go to this Instagram and then log in. So I can share you a link. You open that link, right, and you will see Instagram. You will never recognize. You'll never look at the main domain name. Like it is Instagram.com and underscore dot like gram.com. You will never know that. You'll never notice it. You just put your credentials and you will see that the page reloaded. So what happens is when as an attacker, I create a fake page that looks similar to Instagram, and when you put the credentials, right, it will reload and take you back to the real page. You will think that okay, this is a glitch maybe from Instagram, and you put in the credentials again. So what happened is the first time the credentials got to the hacker, and the second time the page redirected it to your correct place, so that you will never notice, you will never think that something got wrong. You will never notice it. It's that easy to do. Okay. So basically, I've already told you about these things. Like usually, what we do, for example, ransomware, we do backups, right? for impersonation, you look for those mails. For example, it is Instagram.com. So you look for Instagram.com, not Insta_gram, not Insta.gram, not Insta-gram. It should be Instagram. You should always look for impersonations that it looks legitimate, right? Do not install anything that comes as free or cracked or broken. You don't want to do that, right? So that can be a possible Trojan. And if you get compromised, you isolate that device totally, because you don't want that Trojan to flow and to connect with other things as well. And for phishing, again, same thing. You don't want to open any message that looks suspicious, right? Or anything that you don't recognize. So, okay, let's start with this thing. Okay. So usually in defender's mindset, what you are doing is, because we have learned a lot, right? What you should do, what you should not do, that kind of thing. So usually in defender's mindset, what you are supposed to do is assume user will click at least malicious content. That should be your thing, because you will have to educate your employees to do not open those malicious things. So you will have to make sure that users will not click, or click at least some malicious, like they can, sorry, they will be clicking, like they can click at least a malicious link can be opened on anywhere, right? So you'll put some control around that, that this can never be happen. Even if they click on it, right, the blast radius can be contained. It should be as minimum as possible. It should not be flowing to other systems, right? You will have to assume that the password gets single passwords can be stolen, correct? Because obviously if you have just a username and password, it can get stolen. And as an attacker, I can just log into your website, right? But if you have a MFA means you will have to use OTP or other things to verify. 1 second. Yeah. So you will have to use like OTP and other things to like re-authenticate. It's like the two-layer authentication or multi-factor authentication, right? 2FA, two-factor authentication. So what happens is, even if you have a password, you still have to get the OTP or the token to authenticate, right? That is what an MFA is. So that is just a remediation process. Second thing is internet services, internet facing services will be scanned. You will have to, because see, understand one thing. If you are on internet, you are always exposed to everywhere. Internet is a very big place and you're always exposed on the internet. So usually what we want to do is we want to keep the system patched for vulnerabilities, and we want to reduce the exposure as much as possible. If possible, do not put your assets on the internet. Make sure you have proxies, VPNs, or other things in place so that your assets are not exposed directly to the internet. Assume detection will not be perfect. So we will have to assume that something can go wrong. So we will always have to plan backups, and recovery procedures are also very important. So okay, this is very important. Okay, doing backups is also not a very it's not a very you can say thing that can guarantee that everything is good. Doing backups is not the guarantee that everything is good. Okay, always whenever you do a backup, you should always test the recovery procedure, like simulate that. Okay, I have done a backup, now simulate that I am recovering that backup and restoring everything. So if your backup restores everything, that means the backup is running fine. Because usually what happens is companies do the backup, and when it comes to restore the backup does not restore, or maybe it gets corrupted or something. Maybe in the first place they were not doing the correct backup. So always test your backups that it is restoring or not restoring. That is very important. And the last thing is, assume attackers look at the easiest path. Obviously they do. So remove default credentials. Default credentials means, for example, on routers, you have credentials like admin. Like your username is admin, your password is admin. You don't want to do that. Unnecessary ports. Whatever ports is not used, remove it. You don't want that. Excessive privilege. No one should have excessive privilege. You as a developer should have only those privileges that are required to you, not everything. You should not have admin privilege. For example, you want only S3 permission, you want EC2 permission, you should only have S3 and EC2 permission, nothing else. So avoid giving excessive privileges to anyone. So you want to like secure that. Then this is where we come into cloud security. So right now what we were talking about, it applies on both the places. It applies on cloud security as well as on the this thing on the on-prem systems. On-prem means your local hardware. Okay, It comes to that. Like, so usually whenever we are dealing with cloud security, we have multiple devices in place. Like the attack surface area grows very big. Okay. So what happens is in cloud, like, see, the thing is in local environment, you cannot own everything, right? For example, the backup devices are very costly. Storage servers are costly. Your main device is costly, right? If you want to provision like 2, 3 systems, and if you buy the 2, 3 systems locally, that is very costly. So usually we go to cloud, because in cloud we don't pay for those systems. We just rent them for a very cheap price. Okay, and we get everything. So buying is really expensive and renting them is like really cheap, because what happens is, uh, you are only paying for what you are using. So if you don't need an EC2 instance, for example, you buy a laptop, right? You said, okay, I need the laptop right now. And after the laptop's work is done, you can't just go and replace the laptop or give the laptop or return the laptop. You cannot do that. But in cloud, you can provision a system, work on the system, and when you don't have the need for that system, you can just delete it and they will stop costing you. So that's why clouds are like the first thing that comes to a company's mind, that okay, this is really cheap, I should like go on the cloud. So nowadays mostly everyone is on cloud, right? So we will have to like learn to how the cloud shares the responsibility, because now you are not the one who's owning the hardware, because earlier we own the hardware, we own the assets, so we were the one who is responsible for everything. But in cloud, you are not the one who is responsible. The cloud provider will also share some of your responsibilities. Oh, sorry. What happened here? Okay, let me go back. Here, okay. So the cloud provider also shares some of your responsibilities. Okay, so this is what we will have to understand. So AWS is responsible for protecting their own infrastructure. Remember one thing: whatever you are not owning, right? You are not the owner of that. For example, in EC2, in cloud, right? We provision a machine. That machine is provisioned by AWS for us. So we, as a owner of that machine, we have just provisioned it. We can just work on that machine. In the backend, we don't own the hardware. The hardware is owned by the AWS, right? So whatever resource you provision on cloud, AWS has the responsibility to protect them, not you. So you can see that you are always like you are already taking a burden off your shoulders, because if you own the system, if you have the hardware locally, you will have to protect it as well, the local hardware, right? With multiple attacks, like the attackers can do anything with the hardware also, right? So you'll have to take responsibility for the hardware, with the systems, with the network connected on the hardware. But on cloud, you don't have to do that. The network is AWS's own responsibility. The hardware is their responsibility. The availability is their responsibility. The backups is their responsibility. You just have to like put those in place. For example, the backup, like for the backup can, so the backup to happen, you will have to create the backups in the first place. But AWS will make sure that the backups are secured. Even if anything happens, you will have the backup, if and make sure that the backups are isolated from the real machine, so that if the machine gets compromised, the backups are not compromised. And they will have to make sure that whenever the backup happened, the backups were legitimate and the data was like the data has integrity, so that when you are restoring the backup should restore as they have told you. So it's AWS's responsibility to handle those things. So global infrastructure is their responsibility. Global infrastructure means they will have to maintain the region availability. For example, I provision a resource, maybe a EC2 instance or an S3 bucket, whatever that is, right? Whatever resource I provision in a region, for example, in US region, US East 1. So it's AWS responsibility to make sure that the particular resource is available to me 24/7 in that particular region at any given time. So it's not on us anymore. It's AWS's job. So any region or anywhere you provision the data, sorry, you provision the resource, it's AWS's job to handle that particular region and make sure that the region is available to us. Hardware, software, networking facilities, everything is AWS's responsibility, because they are the one who is maintaining those things. We don't have, like, they don't give the control, hardware control, software control to us. They don't do that. We just utilize their, you can say, the systems that they provide us. For example, AWS networking is a service. It's called VPC. So it's not like we are creating the whole network. They already have the network underlying. We just are making connections between, like provisioning a network, a small network, and then connecting our resources to it. We don't own the hardware behind that particular thing. So they are the one who is responsible for making sure that those things are working fine. Then managed service, AWS S3, DynamoDB, RDS, everything, whatever they are managing. And those are called AWS managed resources. Remember this term, AWS managed resources, or they are also called as managed services. Anything that says managed, managed means they are managed by AWS. You are not in control there. They are the one who is managing it. So for example, EC2, we are the managers. We provision an EC2 and we handle the EC2. But whenever we're talking about RDS, maybe a database instance, in that managed resources, what happens is AWS is provisioning it and we are just working on it. We are not handling anything. We are not controlling anything. We are just working on those platforms. And that is called a managed service. So that is AWS's responsibility. Now, where our responsibility comes in, as a customer, our responsibility comes in where? Because see, the thing is, AWS is giving us the infrastructure, but the data is ours. So we will have to make sure that the data is encrypted at any given time. That's our responsibility because it is our data, not AWS data. So AWS is just letting you handle the data, process the data on their system, but it's our responsibility to make sure that the data is encrypted at any given time and it should only be authorized or accessed by authorized persons. Operating systems, patching for, see, you are getting a system from this AWS, right? You're getting an EC2 instance. Whatever you're installing on that system is your responsibility because they're just giving you a PC, a machine. Whatever you are installing is your responsibility. They are not handling it. It's your responsibility. Whatever you are configuring within that PC is your responsibility. Okay. Then whenever you're provisioning a network, so again, as I said, network is theirs, but we are utilizing their network. For example, we are creating firewalls. So they give us a blank network. Whatever rules we are creating, it's our responsibility to create rules because they just lend our hardware to us and we are the one making the rules. So whatever rules we create, whatever ACLs means access control list, that whoever can access the machines, we are the one in charge to handle those things, or we are the one making those rules. Okay. Application security, as I said, they are giving us the service. We are running our applications on those platforms. So application security, we will have to make sure that the code we are creating, the dependencies we are using, the data we are validating, because it's our data, it's our code, it's our dependencies. We will have to make sure that the application security is there. We are implementing security on the code level. We are checking the code that the code is okay and there is no data like leak or anything. Sorry, there is no backdoors into your data that anyone can go and hijack. So it's our responsibility. Anything related to data is our responsibility. AWS takes no, you can say, because obviously, see, as a customer, it's our data, right? So AWS cannot like look at that data. So that data is not accessible to AWS. So that's our responsibility and not AWS. So AWS is handling the resource and you are handling the configurations, the rules you're making, the data you're putting, you are the one who is handling those particular things that is related to the data and the rules that you're creating. It will be your responsibility. The last thing is identity and access management. Whenever you are creating any user or roles on AWS, again, because you are the in charge of creating those users, you are the one who is you are the one who is making decision that who will have access to this particular platform. For example, AWS, right? So you will be creating users, you will be giving them privileges, permissions. You are the one who is handling it. AWS has no role into that. You will have to manage, create policies, create rules to manage what users can access what. That will be your job to do. Now, AWS provides you by default, AWS provides you with some security tools that is native to AWS. So what do I mean by native to AWS? Means these tools are only accessible. Yeah. Yep. You can ask. Yeah, go ahead. Your mic is muted, I think.
Oh, sorry. I was asking if we can take a 2 minutes break after this, please.
Sure, no worries.
Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, what I was telling was like there are some native tools, right? Native means these tools are only available on AWS. Okay. So for example, AWS IAM, as I was talking about, IAM is used to handle users and their permissions, right? So whatever users we are creating, we want to make sure that they only have the permissions that is required by them. They should not have admin privileges. They should not have permissions or access to the resources that they are not required to have. So that is a security feature or a tool, you can say. Then there is guard duty. Guard duty is a very intelligent platform used for threat detection. Threat detection means if you are getting hijacked by someone, is your resource publicly exposed, like those things is handled by guard duty. Then there's WAF. WAF is called a web application firewall. So whenever you're creating a web application, maybe a website or any application that is available on web, right? We want to put a firewall in front so that whenever, remember I talked about the DDoS attack. So there is a lot of DDoS attacks that happen. So web application firewalls are mainly used to handle the DDoS attacks. So they fend off the DDoS attacks and make sure that the server that is running behind it remains secure at any given time and no attackers can reach it directly. So we can create multiple rules. We can use multiple like predefined rules as well. There are there, right? To protect our servers and to protect our applications that is running behind the firewall. Then there is Security Hub. Security Hub is the central platform that is used to handle the compliance checks and look for misconfigurations into your systems. Okay, so for example, it can say that, okay, the data you are storing is not encrypted. Make sure the data is encrypted. So that is a compliance thing, because according to compliance, your data should be encrypted at any given time on any platform. So if you're not encrypting it, that is a misconfiguration from your side. So Security Hub can tell you that hey, you are not encrypting your data. Maybe your resource is publicly exposed, or your instance is internet facing. Those are all misconfigurations, and Security Hub can tell you, because that will make you less compliant. Then there is KMS keys. KMS keys is used for encryption and decryption. It's the same key that I was talking about. If you want to encrypt anything, you will have to use a key, and that is called a KMS key. KMS means key management service. Okay. And then there's the last thing that is called AWS Inspector. Inspector and guard duty are two different things, by the way. The work can look similar, but they are different. So guard duty looks for your outer defenses. It handles your outer defenses of the resources, right? Inspector handles your inner defenses. So what do I mean by inner defenses? For example, you have an EC2 instance, right? Guard duty will tell you that, hey, your firewall is misconfigured. You should not allow this particular port. You should not open this particular port for everyone, right? So it is like looking for a parameter and giving you suggestions that you should not do that. Whereas inspector will get inside your machine. It will tell you that the software that you have installed is vulnerable. Make sure you update the software, or whatever dependencies you are running that are vulnerable, make sure you fix them. So inspector will tell you insides of your resource, and guard duty will tell you outside of your resource misconfigurations. Okay, so that is what it is for. So that's why it only runs for EC2 instances and container images, mainly the machines. Okay, yeah, you can take a 2-minute break if you want, and then I'll continue with this thing. So this one and this one will be the last slides that I would like to stop after that. You can take a 2-minute break. Okay, let me know if we can start.
Are you guys ready?
Yes, we are.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, okay, okay.
Okay, so I think this will be the last slide. So I know you guys this stuffs are very good because if you guys understand this theory, if you understand this knowledge, this foundation knowledge, and these slides that Singh has been teaching or lecturing on, you guys will have a very you guys did I think last class was a lot of coding, a lot of codes and for you to cram. So this class we made a little bit more theory because we wanted to describe the things that you will face in another way when moving forward. So you guys you will see most of these resources, how Sin will be provisioning them. So you already know the names and you know what they do, what they stand for. So it's good to have that mindset, to have this foundation. First with theory, then we build on practicals later, so that you guys at least you should cool off a little bit with the coding and stuff like that. So we don't overcharge your brain with codes and stuff like that. So we want to make it easy, make it in a way that you feel relaxed today. Let your brain chill a little bit today. Then tomorrow we can, or the next class we can pick up with the coding. So this class, after this slide, Sim will teach you guys how to create an account on AWS. I think you will need a card, a Visa or Mastercard to attach to your account so that for billing purposes, then he will show you how to configure your account in a way that it will not cost you so much. So I think I would handle that with you guys maybe tomorrow after tomorrow
Yeah.
for your
They
account.
can run it for
So,
free. They
mm-hmm.
can run it for free if they run it properly. So it will
Mm.
cost them
Okay, okay.
$0. But I'll
Mm-hmm.
show them like how
Oh,
to
okay.
keep it as less as possible, right? They can run it
Oh,
for free
okay.
for a year itself, but after a
Mm-hmm.
year it will start charging them. But a year
Mm-hmm.
should be okay for them, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
second thing is whatever we have learned till now, they can also implement that in their real life, like their normal life, not even in industries, right? For example,
Mm-hmm.
the phishing, the malware, the Trojan, that is
Mm-hmm.
really common in normal scenarios as well, not even in organizations. So this
Mm-hmm.
may seems boring, but this is something that is really important because security is not fun, by the way. Security is boring. But once you start understanding these things, then it becomes fun to learn because then you will start exploring certain domains that you have never thought of, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that is the difference between a normal person and a security expert. Because the security expert takes into perspective what the normal people can't even think about, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is
Mm-hmm.
what we are learning about. And that is really
Mm-hmm.
important to understand as a security, you can say analyst or an engineer, because if you don't have that mindset, you can never like grow into the sector, right? So you will have, and once you are done with this thing, once you understand this thing, you will be a real secure person in this digital world because this world is not safe. Digitally, it's not safe. So you will
Mm-hmm.
have to have that much kind of like this is a very common knowledge that everyone should have. Everyone, not even just a security analyst, right? Because obviously these attacks are like really common. Phishing attack is really common. Ransomware attack, like ransom is not common, but malware is very common, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
people tend to download those softwares, like cracked
Mm-hmm.
softwares, and they get
Mm-hmm.
hacked, right?
Mm-hmm.
Their sensitive data is exposed to someone. Their emails get hacked, and they will be getting mails that okay, someone logged into your system, someone logged into your Facebook accounts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there may be some people who get like their social media got hijacked, right? Instagram
Mm-hmm.
and those things because they did not follow those normal things that looks normal to normal person but not to a say, security analyst. So that is where it comes into play.
Okay, so yeah, see, you can go ahead. So you guys should take it seriously. These slides are very important. I know they might be boring because it is a lot of talking, a lot of text, but please take it seriously. Just bear with us, and so that you guys learn these concepts and you master them. They'll help you moving forward.
Yeah, these are the base. Like if you don't understand this, you will never grow into this. You will never understand what is going on. Why this is very important. Okay, so usually whenever we are provisioning, a cloud account, right? So this is called a sandbox account because like usually we'll be learning how the account should be created in the first place, right? So this is just like a step-by-step guide, usually as a student, what you should practice whenever you're provisioning an account, right? So the first thing is create a dedicated account. So by the way, remember one thing, whenever you are creating an AWS account, that account will be a dedicated account. Dedicated means that account will only be like that account will only belong to you and you only, no one else. You will be the root user. Root user means a user like you have already seen in Linux, right? Root means it will have admin level privileges. It can do anything with that account. So you will be the root user. So make sure whenever as a root user, you should always have an MFA. By the way, it should be for all the users, but as a root user, that becomes really necessary that you should always have an MFA configured as a root user and you store your credentials safely. You do not want your credential to be exposed to anyone. Okay. Second thing is billing alarms, and that is very important because in clouds, if you don't use it properly, you can see enormous bills. Let me tell you a scenario. My friend who was a developer who was not a very good, like he didn't have a good knowledge about AWS. He thought everything is free because like someone told him that AWS is free for 1 year. They did not tell them that okay, it is free for a year, but only when you use it in a certain way. There's terms and conditions. So what he did is he provisioned an RDS server because he was a developer, he was working with databases and all. He provisioned an RDS server, and that server was an organization level server. For in a week, he got a bill of $5,000 from AWS. In a week, he, he got a bill for $5,000. He can't even pay it. So his account got suspended and like I don't know what happened after that. But usually there can be enormous amounts, right, that can be given to you if you don't use it properly. So usually I'll show you how you can like create monitors, alarms, and bills so that whenever the particular threshold is crossed, for example, a particular resource, and you say that okay, I cannot go beyond $100 a month, right? You put an alarm so that whenever you are reaching that $100 mark, you will start like there will be alarms. It will start telling you that hey, you're reaching that mark. Make sure to avoid that because see, AWS will not avoid because it's their business. It will not let, for example, there's no way that you put $100 alarm and after $100 the like it will stop working. No, everything will work. The bill will go beyond $100 as well, but it's just an alarm to tell you that we are reaching that mark and make sure you like either increase the mark to 200, 300, whatever that is, or take action on that resource that is like generating that much cost. So remember this thing as a business, AWS will never stop you. It will let it go because obviously they're making money. But there is an alarm that you can put to at least notify yourself. Then creating IAM users and role. And this is really important because this is the thing that will give users the permission to provision things on your AWS account. So as a root user, obviously you can do everything. But whenever you're creating a new user, for example, you're giving me access. So it's not like you will give me your root user and credentials. Never do that. Usually what we do is we create a user, we attach some permissions. For example, I want my user to create EC2 instances. So I will only attach EC2 permission to that user or to that role. So what happens is whenever someone is using that user or the role, they will only be able to access EC2 instance and nothing else. So that to minimize the blast radius or the attack surface as much as possible. Because in cloud, you have a very wide attack surface. Everything is like, as a root user, everything is accessible to me. So like it's a full playground to me, right? I can do everything. But as a user, if for example, my user get compromised, I only have EC2 permissions. So only the attack surface is minimized to only EC2 instances. That means I can only do whatever I can do. I can only do to EC2 instances and nothing else. So we want to minimize the attack surface as much as possible by using this IAM permissions of like creating roles with certain policies and not giving them admin level privileges. The same thing that I was talking about, apply least privilege policies. We want them to have only those permissions that they require, nothing extra, nothing less. Okay, securely distribute access. Again, do not give anyone root credentials. You don't want to do that. right? Whenever you're creating a user, they will have a separate login credentials. Like it will be a separate login page. They will not be logging as a root user. You will see that. But usually, whenever you're distributing some access, make sure you are first of all providing that access to that certain person only. You are not putting it into a public group or somewhere, right? Like share it privately, and make sure you do not give them root access. Only their privileges should be shared with proper URLs and nothing else. Monitor and automate cleanup. Monitor and automate cleanup means, first of all, always monitor what the user is doing. For example, you gave me the permission, time to time monitor what I'm trying to do. There is a service called CloudTrail in AWS. It can monitor. For example, I think it should be open here, the log manager. Here, you see AWS logs are coming in. So usually what happens is, as a cloud user, if I want to monitor what the user is doing, right, or how many access denied, like for example, my user says that, hey, I'm trying to access this particular service, but I'm not able to access it. So what may be the reason? So I want to see, for example, as a user, I'll say, okay, let me see, like you must have this permission, and I want to go, I will go into the log, because see, you as a user, you are doing it, but I am not able to see that. Either you take a screenshot, either you share your screen, but in organizations, it's not that possible easily to like do that. So what I can do is, for example, I go here, I can say that give me access denied for cloud user. This is my username, right? For I do this, for example, cloud user, and I search. So what will happen is, like, this is my tool, by the way, but in AWS also you can do that. You can go to CloudTrail and you can look for trails, like what has been happening. So CloudTrail is something that will log everything, whatever the user does. So for example, if I go here, see it says that there it is. This CloudTrail, this user did this thing, this user started logging in things, this is my username. So usually what we can do is we can do filters. We can filter about the event. We can filter the access keys based on the events. For example, I'm saying access denied, so I'll look for all the access denied of those users. Tools are mainly used to like do things or like manage things for us in a central place. But usually we can do those things. So usually we want to monitor and then automate cleanup. Automate cleanup means once I don't require the user to be there or the role, right? I want to automate that cleanup so that I can reduce the cost. Because if you remember, the more resource you use, the more it will charge you. So whatever you use, it's like a pay to go service. So whatever you're using, you will be paying for that. The moment you stop using it, you will stop paying for it. So that is what monitor and automatic cleaning is about. So you will have to make sure if you are not using certain things, you will stop them from running. So that is what it is. I hope that is clear to you guys. And we'll be seeing this in the next class, like how to provision an AWS account and what are the main things to take care in an account to make sure that, okay, we are not over provisioning, we are within the safe limits, so that obviously it will not start costing us, right? So I'll show you things, I'll tell you things that will make it like I will try to make it free as like totally free, but maybe you guys provision something that is not free of cost, but I will show you things that you should always go and monitor, and you can see, okay, this is what will be costing you in this coming month. Okay, so I'll show you those things so that you can avoid heavy prices on AWS. I'll try to be like make it free, but you'll have to follow those certain conditions to be like free of cost. Okay, guys, if there's any other question, you can ask me. Otherwise, we are done for today. Make sure to go through it, go through it, read the article, right? Read the whole thing so that you get an idea what we have learned about, and it will really help you to grow and learn things in a security expert perspective. So if anyone has any questions, they can ask, or else we are done for today. Yep.
Yeah, please. Thanks for the lecture, but I have one concern. I wish that perhaps I'm wrong, but I wish that next time or next class, as you be lecturing, you also give us room for interaction. not just wait when we have a question. I mean, you come back to us in order to ensure this will be even put. This will also be pushing us maybe to go into research and because when you keep flowing, it's just like you are speaking without a
Mhm,
break and without coming back to us, like ask us some questions like we've had
mhm.
from the beginning. When you ask us some questions, it makes us feel involved. But now we are just at the receiving end, at the listening end. So it doesn't actually involve us 100%. So I don't know if
Okay.
maybe I'm
No,
wrong. Mhm.
you have a good point, but the point is usually what happens is, see, whenever I'm working or whenever I'm doing the class, right? Whenever I ask something, for example, right now I asked like, "Are we done? Let me know if you are done with the class." Sorry, the 2 minutes break, I can resume. No one said anything to me. So usually what happens is when no one answers anything, right? I tend to think that
That's
everyone is working good. So
Yeah,
that thing
that's
is also a
something
thing.
else. Asking if anybody has, I mean, like when you do one or two scenarios or two slides, I mean, you can okay, come back to us and find out to be in order to be sure you are not just talking, to be sure we are actually getting what you're saying or understanding it.
I
Because
I
I
did.
at the end I feel like you are doing it well. I can't say lie, but at times it's just like we're receiving lectures without
No, I get it. I
being
get
part
it.
of the show. Mm.
I get it. Because see, the thing is, whenever see, I did ask for someone when I was talking about fishing, right? I asked like everyone should have done like or everyone should be have seen the fishing, right? If not, then you can always go and check the spam. But like I was waiting for a response for a second or two, but no
Yeah,
one said anything. So I thought, okay, it's okay.
Madam
You know,
Ekane.
it's not, we are just beginners and
No, no,
we
I
actually
understand. I
need to
understand. I'll
understand this
take care of
thing.
that. I'll give more time, like for the next time, but I'll take
Yeah,
care of that. Don't worry. I like good
Madam.
Okay.
suggestions, by the way. You are doing
Yeah,
Thank
good. I
you.
like suggestions. Yeah.
Madam Ekane. Sorry to cut you
Yes.
short, but remember, he asked about fishing, and we did fishing. Remember, right? We did fishing. We did fishing.
Yes.
We did fishing email analysis. So he asked about fishing. If you guys have seen an example, you have received a sample phishing email in your
Yes.
inbox, but you didn't even
Yes.
make a comment. You didn't react to his question. So these are the kind of interactions that he was waiting for, like asking you guys. Maybe someone has opened the spam before. I think everyone has opened at least open just spam inbox and see those emails. You look at them. At least I was expecting that everyone would say something, but no one said anything. But he went further with the class. So it's not like I'm trying to cover him, but he has been asking follow-up questions why he's teaching, but no one is responding. And I guess it when you don't respond. One thing might be that you don't understand the subject context and you want to learn. It will make more sense if he teaches the same subject next week or next class, that he will be doing the practical creating that AWS cloud account for you guys. Uh, uh, then if he asks a question based on the slides of today, then no one answers, then that's going to really piss me off, because you guys have the notes and you have access to the materials, and you guys have had a class that is based on the slides. So moving forward, the class should be interactive. When I'm interactive, like if you ask a question, say something. If you don't know, this is you are you are here to learn. So don't be ashamed. You can ask something that's really stupid, but you are in the classroom. Guess what? You have a correct answer that will frame your question and maybe give you a better answer and make you clear, make your ideas clear. You understand?
Yeah, you don't have to be ashamed of anything, by the way, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
expecting, because I know that you don't know that thing, right? That's why I said, like, in the next class, I will give you 15 minutes prior so that, like, we have time to interact, we have time to for whatever you have done, because I'm expecting you to fail into some things. For example, this thing did not work for me, this thing I didn't understand, right? That's why, like, I understand, obviously, you don't know those things, but whenever something that is something like a general thing, for example, fishing is something that everyone has seen, right? So in those cases, usually I ask like those generalized questions. But otherwise, I understand that okay, you guys don't know. But I try to be interactive. From the next class, I'll try to be more interactive. I'll wait, take a longer pause maybe, because I know. See, the thing is, I have a lot to cover also, right? So that's why whenever there's no response, I tend to move forward because I think okay, everyone is like okay with that. So that's the whole thing.
Thank
So
you.
even if there is anything stupid, you can go ahead. There is no problem. I'm there for you. And that is why I'm hired, right? So
Thank
that I
you.
can answer any of your stupid questions. Anything is not stupid, by the way. Any question is a good thing to learn something new, right? So even if it looks stupid to you, maybe it holds some value, right? Because that will clear your mind upon that thing. So ask for no worries. Don't fear anything. Just go ahead and ask me anything, okay? So you can do that.
Thank
So
you.
I'll make sure,
Yeah.
yeah, just make sure to always follow up after the class, right? Always go through stuff, always understand. You don't have to give the full day, just take 2 hours from your class, like take 2 hours from your day and just go through it. You will start understanding. You will see that okay, you are learning a lot from that. And then you can just take notes, take points, and then come back to me. That's it.
Noted.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So does anyone has any other question or any other concerns that we need to address? If not, I think we've come to the end of the class. Um, on Friday, you guys will be doing he'll be doing the practicals, taking you through all these steps, creating an account, creating a user, assigning rules, privileges, setting up billing alarms. So you guys know so that when you start using these resources on the cloud, you understand. Like I said, think of a cloud like don't think of a cloud like a mystic like a mystified term. Think of a cloud like you have a personal PC in front of you right now and you're on Zoom. How can you get this how can you take this PC? How can you provision for this same PC somewhere that you are not the one having it physically? So think of the cloud like that. Have that mindset. Like you want to provision, you want to own a PC like what you have in front of you, but you want to own it in a way that you you just log into your account and you have that PC online somewhere that you've provisioned for yourself. So think of a cloud like that. Think of a cloud like someone is giving you a particular service that you use to provision for the things that you want to do. Like for example, you want to get a laptop to run your services for you. You want to get that laptop in the cloud. In the cloud means like you have to choose a cloud provider like either AWS, Microsoft Azure, or Google. So these are the cloud providers. So you want to get that same laptop, but not physically, but electronically. So those are cloud services. That's why we'll be moving forward with that next class on Friday. So you guys don't see you see how you have to provision for your space. You get your EC2, get your server. You do everything. Your SSD, your RAM, and everything. So you create a machine by just using a user interface to click here and here, and you have a machine for yourself. So you guys will learn about those things, and you start understanding what cloud means and how cloud system works. So I hope you guys are really getting something out of these classes. And I think for me that's it. I don't know if you have something to say. Were you saying something?
No, I was just trying to say that I don't know if I might be able to make it on Friday.
Oh,
I might come in late
okay.
because I'm taking my children for appointment, medical appointment.
It's okay. When you come, the issue is that I always endeavor that you guys have this. You have a video you can always watch. You
Exactly.
understand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So don't worry.
That's fine.
If you have to miss a class, don't worry. You'll catch
Yeah.
up
Thank you
because
so much. Mm.
yeah, there'll
Yeah.
be
If I
videos.
come,
Mhm.
Yeah, you
I
can
might
go through the
come late.
videos, you can make your points, and then you can come back to me and explain
Yeah.
that
Thank you.
again. So do not be
Thank you
worried
so
about that.
much. Mm.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
So if
Yeah.
if you guys don't have anything, I think we've already exhausted 10 more minutes. So well,
Yeah.
you guys
I would
you have a
love
good day.
everyone to interact, by the way. I'd
Hmm.
love everyone to interact. Like, you can give me suggestions because not everyone is perfect, right? I too am a
Yeah.
human. I'm not perfect. So you can always give me inputs and I can like improve upon them, right? So that it's
Hmm.
good for everyone else, correct?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
not like we're just sitting and learning. It should be
Mhm.
interactive. It should be fun, right?
Yeah.
So if you start asking, start interacting, obviously that will be fun for me and you as well. So yeah, I would love your suggestions and inputs.
Okay. So
Okay. Oh,
without
perhaps I talk
said,
a lot.
No, without saying, I think everyone is good, right?
Perhaps I disturb a lot because I'm the only one.
No, that's a
The
good
only
thing.
one.
It's good.
Really,
It's
that's a
good.
good thing.
It's a
Now
good thing.
you are the one I know very very much. Like I know you now. Because everyone else, like they're quiet. I don't know them, right? Because they haven't interacted with me. But you, I know you now personally. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's a
Thank
good
you.
thing. It's
yeah.
a
I'll
good
make
thing.
sure to work on your inputs because now I
Yeah.
only have inputs from you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. Okay.
Okay, so you guys will have a good day, and we'll see you guys on Friday. If you have any problem, you can always send an email to
Yes.
the yeah
Very
to,
good.
to the group, or you can get in touch with Nelson directly on phone, or either email the school email directly. Then we can sort you out. We can send you notes. We'll send you links to the videos if you don't have them, so that you can always watch them and catch up with the others in class. So with that said, you guys should have a good day, and see you guys on Friday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have a good day, guys.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Yeah,
Thank
welcome.
you.